Okay, well, my name is Stacy S, and I grew up with five brothers. I'm the only girl and the youngest. I live in a suburb of Houston, Texas called Tomball. I love Houston sports. So if Houston has a sports name, I root for them. Did community theater for about 25 years. Did comedy, drama, and it's really funny because it wasn't the applause that I loved. It's kind of like a drug that when you hear people laugh, or when in a drama, when you hear that silence when something is really, really tense, that is what really did it for me. And it's been tough to let that go. I really thought there was something wrong with my thyroid because my mom had that. So I had some fatigue, and so they did a blood test, and my platelets were through the roof. They couldn't even read them. So they had to send them to Baylor College of Medicine, and that's when it was like 1,400,000. So that's when they did a bone marrow biopsy and found that I had thrombocythemia. They gave me medication. It was great for, 12 plus years, for, oh gosh, no, even longer than that. It's like 17 years. And then they said, okay, we're noticing some immature cells on your blood counts and noticing your platelets are dropping. And I thought, hey, isn't that a good thing? Because they were fine. So that's when they found the myelofibrosis. I do remember because my thing was whenever I would work, my lunch hour was always going to work out. And I would go do the elliptical and then do strength or core. And so I would start out on the elliptical, and instead of being able to add more resistance or go faster or whatever, because I would do something different every day, it was like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm getting out of breath faster and I can't add more. It's like I've got to take away resistance or do less. And I'm like, is it because I'm getting older? That's all I could think of was, oh, it's probably because I'm getting older. That was my excuse for it. And that happened like April of 2016. When the results came back of the test, and I was like, well, let's do them again. I just want to make sure, let's do them again before we do a biopsy. So we did them again. And then, so I got scheduled for a biopsy. And so I went in to do the biopsy. And that's when they found out that it was myelofibrosis. In 1999, thrombocythemia was considered a bone marrow disorder. And then apparently in 2006 is when it shifted, and my oncologist never told me that. It's just, so I was always just going in for my annual CBC, and okay, everything looks great. Come back next year. Okay, really, and everything. And then, so when I went in for after my biopsy, and my oncologist said, well, you've always had cancer. And I was like, huh? And that's when I looked it up online, and that's when in 2006 it said that they upgraded it to describe it as cancer or classify it. I never heard about myelofibrosis or polycythemia vera. I never heard about that stuff. So yeah, that was new. Well, I had a biopsy before. Um, that was fun. The first one was great. Had that twilight stuff in 1999, so I felt nothing. The second one was a nightmare because of since myelofibrosis is scarring of your marrow, it's harder to get that sample. So I was on the table for about 40 minutes, and they kept on trying and trying and trying. Couldn't get a sample, so I sat there for another 30 minutes and brought in the second team. and they kept on trying and trying and trying, and they got a semi sample. The other problem is I found out that morphine doesn't work on me. So the painkiller that they weren't giving me wasn't really working. So it was hellacious. Well, the one thing good was my first mutation, the first from that first time they said, well, you've got one mutation, but it's not very aggressive. It was the CALR, which was the good, the good mutation. If you have myelofibrosis, this is the one you want. So the the prognosis was, 15 to 20 years. So I was like, hey, I'm cool with that. That gave me until like I was like 70. So I was kind of happy with that. Jakafi, um, I took it for about 6 months, but my platelets were crashing and my spleen was still getting bigger. So I got off it. Um, and then, and then I did thalidomide, and that was tremendous. It was great. That helped me a lot. It pushed my numbers up. It was great. But then we had a little thing that happened. I remember going in April of 2017, um, and I said, "Hey, I've got a little numbness in my right foot. Is that neuropathy?" And my oncologist said, "No, no, no. If you don't have it in your left foot and you're just your right, then it's fine. It would be in both feet." And I go, "Oh, okay." And so August came around and I go, I've got numbness in both feet now." And I had already stopped taking it. So, but I really wish I had stopped taking it in April, because that's, and then whenever I got the chemo in the hospital, that's when it worked its way all the way up to my knees. And then I started to go to MD Anderson, which is then it was the world renowned myelofibrosis doctor, Dr. V, Verstovsek. And he did a few more blood tests and got some of the samples from my biopsy. Found out, yes, you do have the CALR, but we found a second mutation. We found the ASLX, which is one of the more aggressive ones. So we suggest you do the stem cell transplant, because you've got now the 2 to 5 year. I'm on this Facebook page, and there are so many people who have been told that 2 to 5 year thing, and they're going, yeah, but I'm on my year 10. I'm on my year 15. So it's kind of like, it's funny. So I'm kind of living each day that, you know what, I might not have tomorrow, but I'm going to make plans for next month. I'm going to make plans for next year. I'm buying Christmas presents. I'm living like I usually do, and I'm not really going to focus too much on that, because it's not up to me anyway. That was, well, before the stem cell transplant, you go through a boatload of tests, a bone marrow biopsy, and then your family goes through like this kind of training of what to expect. And then you have to be prepared to, the first 100 days, be at least within an hour of the hospital. And then expect to be about a month in the hospital. You check in, and then they put like a port. Let's see, mine was like right here, for them to give medicine and to do blood counts every day, and to also give you your chemo. And the other thing was the worse than the chemo was the immunosuppressant treatment. that they gave you. That's the worst thing I've ever been through in my life. That was it was basically to crash your immune system. And it was because I've never had the flu, but I'm guessing this was like getting the flu times three. Um, you get a fever, and I've only had probably 5 fevers in my life. So my fever spiked to about 102 or 103. I just remember seeing my hands shaking, like my body was shaking like this. And I learned to meditate. So I started to meditate, and I could calm it for like 6 or 7 seconds, and then it would start up again. And then the bone pain in my legs were so excruciating. I had to get out of bed and walk around. I remember giving me like 3 doses of, it was either Percocet or Darvocet, one of the two. And after about 3 or 4 hours, it finally went away. It was just the immunosuppressant treatment, and then the next day they started the chemo. They put it through the port, and that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, I know I had a a little nausea. Um, like the first day, you were sick and had nausea and diarrhea. And then the next day, it was like your body got used to it and it was fine. And then switched to the next one. And then you were sick, and then your body got used to it. The one bad thing was the medications that they gave me didn't really help. The anti-nausea stuff didn't help at all. The really bad thing was the aftermath of the chemo was the mouth sores that you got. And I know a lot of people had it much worse than I did, because they were always checking, do you have anything down your throat? Do you have anything down your throat? And I go, no, my throat's fine. So I was very lucky in that capacity, but I did have really bad mouth sores. They gave you this biotine or something, but that really didn't help. All I did was I used ice, and I would try and numb my mouth with that, and that would help. And then you just wait for your numbers to get better. They waited for the leukocytes to get up to a certain number. I think it was like 19 was the magic number to release you. And I stayed at my mom's for the first week, and then I moved to stay with my brother and sister-in-law in I had a little bit of graft versus host disease. Not again, not as bad as most people. My worst thing was my skin itched terribly. I didn't have any rashes, but my skin, it felt like I had ants crawling over me all the time. And the magic thing was discovering coconut oil. Putting coconut oil on your skin, especially right after a shower, when your pores are open, it was like magic. It was like, oh, felt so good. When the stem cells didn't graft, they kept on saying, okay, we'll just keep on checking your blood counts and everything. And my blood counts kept on looking really good for like a year, 2 years. And they go, okay, well, we'll just keep on doing, keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on doing what you're doing. So, and it wasn't until probably this May, or this past year, is when they kind of, except my white blood count, they've always been pretty high. But other than that, and my LDH has been through the roof. So which is the LDH is what shows what how much scarring is in your bone marrow. And mine's, times 400 or something like that. You're supposed to be like around 150, and mine's about over 2,000. I'm on medication because I do have neuropathy up to my knees. I got Addison's disease, so I'm on steroids. Um, and I also get migraines, so I'm on medication for that. I'm still on several medications from the stem cell transplant that I'll still be on. I still have the big tub that they gave me for, and so I take medication right when I wake up. I take medication whenever I go to bed, and then I take medication twice during the day, and then I also take supplements. Let's see, I stopped having transfusions. I think my last transfusion was like January of 2020. And then I started to lose the stem cells in August of 2020. They were saying that they want to do another stem cell transplant. And I said no. I wasn't going to do it again, mainly because of the side effects from the chemotherapy that I got, that I'm still living with, that that haven't gotten better. It's the neuropathy and the Addison's disease. Addison's is it attacks your adrenal glands, and your adrenal glands help your muscles. So, and your adrenal glands are your electrolytes. So now I have low sodium and low magnesium and high potassium. And so it works in conjunction with your muscles. And so right now, like in my legs, I have pain in my muscles all the time. And like at nighttime, I'll wake up with really bad cramps in my feet, in my ankles, in my shins. Even if the next stem cell transplant were successful, I would be worried about what would be left over in my body afterwards. Would like to take a nap every single day. And it's just, there's so many stages of fatigue. Yeah. And that was, like I would say fatigue stage 1, as opposed to fatigue stage 2, which fatigue stage 1 would be like your hemoglobin is at 10. And then when it hits 9, you're dragging, but you can still do stuff. And now when it hits like 7 or 8, like where I am now, it's to get out of the chair and go and cook something. Is you have got to focus on just doing that. I'm dragging my sprinkler out to water since we haven't had rain in so long. I am so worn out and I am breathing heavy that you just slump in a chair and it's like, okay. And then you think, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom. Okay, well, I'll do that in about 15 or 20 minutes when I can do that. And the thing is, I'm not married. I don't have kids, so it's just me taking care of me. And so it would be really difficult for me to take care of me if even more of my body is affected by the chemo. So that would be my fear. Even though the cancer's gone, there'd be other things going on. So right now I can at least get around and take care of myself. What's really good this time as opposed to the last time, because my spleen was getting bigger faster. It had gotten, because my spleen in December of 2016 was at, I think, where it is right now. Like it's at 16 and a half centimeters. And then by the time I had the stem cell transplant, it had gotten up to 22 centimeters. now it's kind of halted at 16 because I had a CAT scan last year, and that's when they saw it was like 16 and a half. And my oncologist feels my side every single time I go in, which is every 2 months. And he goes, yeah, it still feels like it's about that. It still feels like it's about that. So, and we are planning on having another CT scan before the end of the year. Well, it kind of shoves up against your stomach because the normal size is around 11. And it shoves up against your stomach, and it can make you feel fuller faster. Well, one of the things I've been telling everybody who helped me through this, because I could not have gotten through it without my family, my friends, and my church community. There's no way. When I thought about the transplant, I didn't worry about the chemo. I didn't worry about losing my hair. I didn't worry about being in the hospital. That's not what I feared. The fear for me was I dreaded going to the hospital for, 2 to 3 times a week and having to depend on somebody else to drive me to the hospital. I lost sleep over that. Because I did not want to have to put people out like that. It bothered me so much thinking about that. And my family and my friends and my community were so giving to do that for me. I can't thank them enough, and I learned humility. It's the greatest gift I've ever received, and I'll never be able to pay them back. There are people that have such good hearts, and just to know to accept that help, and then you know what? You need to give help when you can. And that's what I need to do now, is to not be saying, oh, I don't feel like it. No, give help whenever you can, however you can. And if it is just to call somebody up and say, hey, how you doing? Oh my gosh, I wake up every morning and the first thing that I do now is I'm not even out of bed. I am meditating on scripture. And I never did that before. It was like, no, I'm going to stay in bed 10 more minutes and I'm going to sleep. It's not my day, it's his day.